Hi, this is Tony from Buffalo Strength. You might have heard that we're under lockdown at the moment, so I thought I'd give you a kettlebell workout that you can do at home. Some of you already borrowed equipment from the gym, or you might already have a kettlebell at home, in which case just use that one. If you don't have a kettlebell, you can do this workout with your own body weight, or just improvise with whatever unstable weight you might have at home. Don't go crazy. I'm talking use a can of beans or something. I should explain the concept of this workout. It's a high intensity workout, which means that you work for 3 minutes and then you rest as long as you need to. If you're a beginner, then I recommend that you rest for exactly as long as you've worked for. So if you work for 3 minutes, then you're going to rest for 3 minutes. We work in 5 3-minute rounds, with those 3 minutes, or if you're a bit more fit, a minute and a half in between. I took a minute and a half in between for this workout. Okay, let's crack on. So, we're going to begin with a squat into a good morning. Full credit to Ruth Andrews of Active Relief Hong Kong for this movement. I saw it in her Instagram and I thought it's a fantastic warm-up, and why not add a little pink kettlebell, which should be in everyone's repertoire really. It's important to limber up with a lighter weight before you start to work heavy. In this movement, what we want to do is squat deep, keeping the knees over the toes, and then raising the butt high and stretching out the hamstrings at the top. If you can't squat that deep, that's fine. Just squat as deep as you can, so long as your knees don't cave inwards. Stretch the butt out at the top, squat as deep as you can, and back up. Oh, I should point out that I'm wearing a face mask in this workout, and it's not recommended. I thought it might be funny as a gag, but that stole my oxygen really fast, so you're in isolation and quarantine already. Don't do the workout with a face mask on. Okay, moving into the second exercise of this round. This is called the buffalo blowout. What we do is we squat down deep, bicep curl, squat up, press, tricep extension, squat down again, bicep curl, up, press, tricep extension. It's very important to control your movements here. You want to stretch out the joints. This is a warm-up still. We're not swinging heavy weights, we're just stretching out the joints and using a full range of motion, just as deep as we can. Don't worry about how many repetitions of this movement you can do. Just work for the full 3 minutes, go as slow as you want. Remember, it's a warm-up. I should point out that you should always be staring frontwards. Your eyes should be locked straight ahead when you stand up in a squat. The reason I'm peeking down is because my stopwatch is on the floor. There we are again, see I'm peeking at it to see I get the time right. Right, so this is round 2. We're going to go for 3 minutes again. I should emphasise the importance of staring intently at the kettlebell. A perfect demonstration here. When you deadlift, again, as you squat, it's important to keep your knees over your toes, your arms fully extended at the bottom, and what you're doing is you're sitting back into the lift, extending your legs, and moving your hips forward. At the top of the movement, your shoulders should be pulled back so they're in line with your hips. It's very important for each repetition to reset at the bottom of the lift. That means you let your body go slack, you tighten up again, then slowly extend your legs and push your hips forward. Your back should be locked up tight. I sometimes tell my clients, you should imagine you've got a pencil at the centre of your spine and you're trying to keep it there. If your back's locked up tight, then your legs can extend safely. I'm doing this with the heavier weight, the 20 kilogram kettlebell. The rest of the workout I'll be doing with the 10 kilogram kettlebell, or 44 pounds or 22 pounds if you live in a country that doesn't have good coronavirus control. Joke slightly in poor taste, forgive me. Again, just go as slow as you need to. You don't have to pump out reps. The importance is to do every rep with proper form. This next one is a bit more advanced. Hold a lighter kettlebell over the back of your shoulder, lunge forward, control the movement. It's very important that you don't let your knee track over the front of your toes. And it's also very important you don't let your back leg turn inwards. You should be controlling this movement and not using momentum. The torque should be coming from the serratus and the obliques, just pressing up slowly. Switch to the other side after 45 seconds. And then in the other minute and a half of the round, we'll do the other exercise. If you overbalance like I did just there, just carry on. As long as you're not hurting yourself, a little bit of added torque won't do you any harm. You'll find that you're better on one side than the other at this movement. Okay, on to round 3. Again, we're going to use the heavy kettlebell, and we're going to do a Russian swing. Again, stare intently at the kettlebell before you begin your exercise. Deadlift it up. I'm going to turn to the side now, just so you can see where this momentum is coming from. I'm not going to extend my legs too much. This is coming from a strong explosion in the hips. Your back should be locked up tight, just the same as it is in the deadlift. Again, you can do this with body weight, you can do it with a light weight, just so long as the back is locked up tight and the momentum is coming from the hips. Your feet should be glued to the floor for this. I'm just turning around so you can see it from a different angle. Again, the point is to lock up the back. If your back is locked up, then you'll be able to control the weight instead of the weight controlling you. The Russian swing is sometimes described as an upright standing plank. So we're going to complement this exercise in the second half of the round with a static plank movement. It serves well to exhaust the core. If you're doing this movement properly, it should be your hips and your core that are exhausted more than your shoulders and arms. Again, your shoulders and arms are just there along for the ride. All the strength is coming from your hips and your legs and your core. So here's the static plank motion. I did a little sissy squat swing to get it behind me there. The object of this exercise is to balance the kettlebell behind you in an inverted position if you can. If you want to do a more beginner version, you can turn the kettlebell the other way up. Now, to the untrained eye, it looks like you're doing nothing here. But believe me, if you're holding an inverted kettlebell and trying to stabilise your core and your buttocks from this position, it's very stressful. Well, it's stressful in a good way, you know. It's important to keep the kettlebell back and far away from you and inverted if you want to do this exercise properly. Also to keep your hips forward. If you don't get it perfect to begin with, then that's okay. Just kind of settle into the movement and then try and be a bit more strict with yourself. Try and get the hips a bit more farther forward. For those of you that are actually doing this instead of just watching on YouTube out of curiosity, your lower body is probably fatigued by now, so you'll be grateful to hear about predominantly working an upper body from this point on. We're going to begin with a pivot raise. Now it's important to note that this is not a swing. I'm not going to use any momentum here. I'm turning a full 180 degrees and I'm raising the kettlebell, holding it for a second of tension at the top and then just letting it gently fall in a controlled way. This is the opposite of what we're doing with the Russian swing. We're not doing fast and explosive here. We're doing very, very slow and controlled. As you're raising it from side to side, you're not just exhausting your shoulders, you're working your obliques, your serratus, again, anything in the sagittal plane. In a second, we're going to complement this movement with one that should exhaust what's left in the shoulders and serratus. This is a lateral swing. Now I'm putting my arm out of the way there because you shouldn't be balancing in your leg. What we're doing here is this kind of squatting motion. It's important not to turn your knees at the bottom of this movement. If you can't do it in the perfect squatting motion, then just do it with body weight. You don't want a kettlebell crashing into your knees, so it's very important to control it. Again, the body and the knees shouldn't torque. There should be no torque in the upper body. The upper body should be up and down, and the arm just extending. Switch arm at the halfway point, and we go for another 45 seconds. The reason I tell you to keep your other arm out of the way is because if you're using your other arm to post off of your leg, then you're just going to introduce more torque into the movement. If you can't get a full range of motion, then don't do a full range of motion. Just control the weight and work within the range of motion that's comfortable. Right, last round. We're going to clean and press. It's important that you're not curling the weight on the way up and that you reset it properly. Those two are linked. If you reset it properly, then it should be harder to just bicep the curl weight up. You want to throw your hips forward and that should carry the kettlebell up. Once you're at the top, extend your arm. Try and separate the two movements if you can. If you can't, then, after you clean it, dip your legs slightly and use the momentum to carry the weight up to a locked position. Switch arms at the halfway point. Right, last exercise of the day you'll be happy to hear. Now, what you do is you put your front foot forward and you swing with the same arm. Swing up gently, jerk back quickly. This is a kind of a swing and roll. It's very important you swing with the same leg that you're leading with. You swing up slow and then you jerk it back quite violently. You stabilise your whole body when you pull it back. Credit to Wesley Webb, who showed me this manoeuvre. He was taught it in his jiu-jitsu class. And if you do mixed martial arts or wrestling or anything like that, or jiu-jitsu, it's very translatable. It's kind of like imitating an arm drag from a standing wrestling position. It's very important you stabilise it as you pull it back. You should pull back with your elbow, not your hand or your wrist. Right guys, that wraps it up. That is a smiling happy face. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this workout, once we start back up again, we hold these kettlebell classes every Wednesday at 7 AM. In the meantime, I'll be doing this hopefully on a weekly basis, and I'll see you in the next one.